Welcome to kgeosportstalk. Can't believe that we're coming up on week 13 right now. This is pretty crazy. Anyway, I got a ton to cover, so I'm gonna jump right into the matchups. To start out with my matchup versus McKinley, obviously it's huge for both of us. I've got to win and beat Angier scoring-wise by 7 or more points in order to take second place and get the $200. McKinley needs a W, obviously, to stay out of last place and avoid the additional $50. Last time I played McKinley, he put up 175 points, so he knows how to get it done. But a lot has changed since week 2. To start, just a couple a couple cleanup things for McKinley. A few wasted roster slots just with Mark Sanchez, complete joke. Shouldn't be even in the NFL, let alone on a fantasy team. Ben Roethlisberger, was having a good year. I can kind of understand that, but he's injured. You're not going to play him over Eli at this point. So what's the point of having him now? And Mark Ingram, he's gone over 10 fantasy points twice this whole year. So Ingram's a freaking joke. He should not even... He's barely hanging on that 5-headed monster they have at running attack for the Saints. A couple things I like about McKinley, besides the fact that he loves barbecue, and he's a heck of a b-ball player. He has put up a decent amount of points this year, projected at 114 this week, so it's going to be tight. He's got a good squad, so I think the difference in this one going to be that he doesn't have Shady. Shady's injured. He's out. I picked up Bryce Brown. That's a difference in this one. And we'll see which Eli does show up. He obviously was in that stint where he was struggling. Moving on, Angier and Eddie. How the hell is Eddie 500? I would love to know how Eddie's 500. With Tom Brady, Jordy Nelson, Demaryius Thomas, goes on and on. I think the big difference for Eddie, or the differentiator here, has been Jordy MJD being injured and the fact that Eddie has the most points scored against him this year. That obviously doesn't help the fact that your fantasy D, so to speak, isn't luck's not on your side when the matchups are coming out. But Eddie's got a sick team. Angier, I gotta give the edge to Eddie in this one, just because Angier's got great players, but they're all injured in some way or coming off of an injury. You got this week he's starting Jennings, DMC, Forte, and Nix. Now, granted, Nix blew up last week, but we'll see what happens with that as far as which Nix shows up this week. But he's got Matt Ryan, and Matt Ryan obviously is one of the main reasons that Angier's in second. Matt Ryan's having a potential MVP year, but he's got to pick it up. They're barely sliding by and not covering the spread, which is slightly pissing me off in the bets that I'm making. Pupeo versus Gordy. Hats off to Jay. Been great having you in the league, dude. You've killed it. You've killed it so far, 10-2. And the thing that I think you have going for is just the fact that you start 2 QBs. Jay starts Peyton Manning at 29 fantasy points projected this week, and Arian Foster, a running back, obviously, but is projected at 23 fucking fantasy points. That's ridiculous. Good matchup, but Tennessee at home, I don't know if he's going to get 23. I'll project him more at 15 this week. I think they got a little crazy. For Gordy, Deshaun Jackson can be dropped right away. Not going to need him anymore. And Marcel Reese, most likely, can go straight to your bench. I give the edge, no doubt, to Jay Reed. Also, with Gordy having Gronkowski injured, Gordy's got a great team. He has more fantasy points than I do this year, so he's got a great squad, but I don't know if this matchup favors him. Jay is projected to win, and I know projections don't mean much, But when you're projected to lose by 32 fantasy points, that's a lot of fantasy points. That's a lot of fantasy points. So we'll see if Gordy's able to make up for it. He's got a team that can do it. Moving right along here to Bill and Chuck. I got to tip my hat off to Bill, even though it's been a tough season. Some big pickups with Jacquizz Rodgers, and who's stealing a ton of carries from Chuck's guy, Michael Turner, of course. And with Ryan Broyles, you know, that is with Titus Young being kind of dismissed from the team or suspended, Broyles is a huge pickup. So for this week, definitely going to help Bill. I would probably give the edge to Bill in that, just because I like guys like Broyles, and I think Bill's team overall with Drew Brees, the guy's projected a freaking 33 fantasy points against Atlanta this week. So we'll see how tomorrow night shakes out. For Chuck, like I said, Michael Turner playing less than 50% of the snaps now, with Jacquizz stealing his rushes. And Dwayne Bowe, I love Dwayne Bowe. Dwayne Bowe started out good. Dwayne Bowe is now struggling because Brady Quinn's in there at QB. One thing that's great that's going for Chuck, just the fact that Marshawn Lynch, ridiculous year again. Third leading rusher in the league. One thing I would say on Chuck's end, in order to combat Breeze, because you know Breeze, unless he gets injured or something, is going to at least go for 30 tomorrow night. Stafford's going to need to have a huge game at Indy. And if he doesn't, if he's capped off at 20, I don't think Chuck stands a chance. So it's going to come down to the QBs. If Stafford's able to keep pace with Breeze, I think Chuck can keep it a game. But we'll see how it goes. Beeman versus Capron. In this one, there's a few things that I like. Just the fact that, obviously, because of the points that Capron has, everybody needs him to lose. The projections are ridiculous. The implications are crazy. Beeman's projected at 132, and Capron's projected at 122. Now, the one thing I don't like about Beeman's team, just the fact that his wide receivers are pretty weak. Brandon Lloyd's had a so-so year, and with Torrey Smith, very hit or miss. I mean, obviously those guys could blow up. Are they going to blow up on the same week? We'll see what happens. One huge edge is with Bradshaw. Obviously, with Andre Brown being out, Bradshaw's going to have a big game, I think, at Washington. So that'll be something to watch. And as far as Capron goes, if you're going to pick up Kaepernick, play him, bro. Play Kaepernick. Let's not burn the guy out on somebody's bench. He's a lock. He's a lock, bro. We'll see. Big edge at wide receiver for Capron, okay, with Welker. But one thing I would say is where Beeman has the edge is, obviously with Sproles back. Sproles is huge for him. And he's also got the edge at tight end, with Jason Witten versus Capron having Dustin Keller, who I really have no trust in any New York Jet. Moving along, Ozzie and Adams. Big pickup for Adams with Chris Givens. Who the hell is Chris Givens? Double-digit fantasy points the last 4 weeks for St. Louis. Tough matchup this week against San Francisco, so we'll see how that turns out. I'll say coin flip on this matchup once Ozzie puts in Percy Harvin. If Percy Harvin plays, I'll give Ozzie the edge. If he doesn't, then I think Adams takes this down. One thing to monitor, James Jones and Vernon Davis got 0 fantasy points for Ozzie last week. In his starting lineup, 0 fantasy points. That's tough to win against. Ozzie did manage 120 fantasy points against Gordy, though. So he stuck it out. Ozzie still doesn't have a full team. He has an empty bench spot, which I don't know why you would ever have an empty bench spot. At least fill it in with somebody that maybe down the road you may use. But hey, it's your squad. Best draft pick, I would say Ozzie. Hats off to you. RG3. definitely the MVP of your team and having a monster year. So that's those I believe are the matchups at this point. One thing I do want to talk about for Gordy's team, some shockers, just as far as Brandon Myers, who's ranked 8th. He's a tight end for Oakland. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who the hell that even is. But Brandon Myers, 8th ranked fantasy tight end for this week, and having some big numbers. Having some really big numbers in Gordy's starting lineup with Gronkowski out. So, I mean, you got to make some shit work. Nice pickup. Biggest boss, Jermichael Finley at tight end. Ozzy was nice enough to trade me Jermichael Finley. I actually requested him in the trade, and he's done nothing for me. I dropped him maybe a month ago. Let me see here. Biggest pickup at tight end, I would say. Not to tap myself on the back or anything, but Jermaine Gresham, who's on my team, I picked up off of waivers. He was a free agent. He's a top 5 fantasy tight end the last 5 weeks. So, lucked out on that one, obviously. Some blockbuster trade results. Not much to talk about here, but this literally changed the league. This totally changed the league. I was in 12th place. Went with this trade with Angier. Angier was in a similar position he's in now. He's still there. So somehow Angier, scratched this out and made out okay. But I went from 12th to 3rd with this. Angier received Greg Jennings, Run DMC, and Devon Bess. I received Mikel LaShore, Dez Bryant, and Cedric Benson. Now, Benson was injured in his first game. Dez Bryant's going to the Pro Bowl. Mikel LaShore, been huge for me. Double digits the majority of the weeks. Couple games, 9, 8 points. Not going to kill you there. But as far as Angier goes, I touched on the injuries before, but Jennings hasn't played. It hasn't played for Angier. Run DMC's been injured since week 9, and Devon Bass is starting for Billy now, I believe. So that just kind of shows you how things change. You never know with trades, but you got to roll the dice. So I'd like to see more trades next year, for sure. And I would love to see when Eddie gets back for our whole fantasy football league to have a party for our fantasy football league, get all the guys together, and also to acknowledge that Eddie is now back. All right, and he's back in the States, so we'll get a big ripper going wherever that needs to be. Let's get it going. But week 13 about to happen, kicks off tomorrow. Hope you guys were able to stomach this long kgeosportstalk blog, but more to come hopefully if we got time for it after Nashville. Later, guys.